Foxygen is Sam France and Jonathan Rado, an experimental and progressive indie music production duo based in Los Angeles, California. Following a musical encounter in high school, Sam and Jonathan realized a shared affinity of classic artists such as Led Zeppelin and Lou Reed, and the Westlake duo began writing their own original compositions via Foxygen. You're tuned into Roots to Grooves.
Everybody, it is Roots to Grooves. I'm Jesse Quigley. Sitting across from me is Jay Purcell. That makes this Roots to Grooves. Thank you for listening. Welcome.
Welcome, everybody.
What's good, Jay? How are you?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Doing very good. Happy to be alive. Hashtag grateful.
Ooh, hashtag grateful.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for listening, tuning in. We are talking about Foxygen today.
Foxygen, yeah.
Not foxes, not oxygen, but Foxygen.
Yeah. Duo. Out of LA, right?
Yeah. Westlake Village.
Westlake Village.
Was that? Is that right?
Yeah, I had to look that up.
Westlake Village, California, Los Angeles area.
City, yeah, in LA.
Yeah. Sam France and Jonathan Rado.
Yeah.
basically a duo, like you said. Those are their names.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, let's just start from the top. What do these guys play? This was my pick for the week.
Yeah.
So these guys are cool, like kind of throwback vibes. Their first album was kind of lo-fi. They're known for being kind of sporadic and almost, I mean, I've seen it described as ADD. Like there'll be some significant changes in the style of music
Right.
within the same track
Yeah.
a lot of times.
Yeah.
So they really like to switch it up, and that's kind of why I fell in with them, because I think that's really cool. It's kind of very postmodern in their mix of genre mashing
Yeah.
and influences. I got lists of influences such as Eric Burton from, I think, the Animals, Rolling Stones, David Bowie, the Kinks, Lou Reed, a little bit of Dylan, Phil Spector. I was about to say Spill Fector, I think.
Spill Fector.
Phil Spector and his Wall of Sound.
Yep.
Yeah, what do you think about Foxygen, Jay?
Really good. I hadn't heard of them at all. Started listening to their first proper studio album, 2011, Take the Kids Off Broadway. Really lo-fi vibe. It's like rock, pop. It sounds a lot like early Rolling Stones, very 60s kind of vibe, very, very lo-fi. Not as lo-fi as Ariel Pink, maybe.
He's the maximum lo-fi.
He's the maximum lo-fi. But yeah, it was good. It was just very retro sounding to me. I couldn't believe it was made in modern times, because it definitely has that vibe that sounds like it came from the 60s or something like that.
Yeah, no, 100%. Based on their influences as well.
And like you say, very eclectic. Their sound, as I've listened to all the albums, and we'll talk about it as we go forward. But yeah, there's a lot of, you can hear a lot of their influences in the music, and they're all there, like at different moments, like especially in songs, individual songs as well. It will go from, oh, that sounds like Lou Reed, to no, that sounds like Mick Jagger, like in one song kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know how conscious they're doing that, or if it's just coming out through their, unbridled subconscious influence. But yeah, very cool. And they're almost, you can describe them as almost like an art rock or performance type act.
Yeah.
More so than like a band.
Right.
But they are a band, and they're coming out with good original music. So don't get me wrong. But just the way that they kind of dress up and they kind of put on a show with their live shows and with like the music and their albums. Yeah. And the kind of the way they tie it together with themes.
Yeah, theatrical is what some people have described it as. Unique and unabashed and theatrical. Yes. Retrolicious is a nice word I saw. And I also think they can be a bit whimsical and quirky as well.
Very, yeah. Like, that's a great way.
Lyrics, especially that song we just heard there. I was trying to work out at first like what the backing vocal was, because it was like, what was it? I left my love in San Francisco.
I left my heart in San Francisco.
And then it's like, I thought the backing vocals was like, it's okay, I'm bored anyway. But I think it's okay, I was born in LA. Is that right?
Oh yeah. I think born. It could be bored.
I think they might have alternated it. I'm not sure. But,
maybe, yeah. I didn't notice that, but that's a good point.
It was kind of funny though, and the timing of that, like the phrasing of when it came in, it sounded like it would be like running into another vocal or something. That was just a weird observation I had on that song.
No, I like it. I love it. Astute observation. So that was basically like the first, one of the first songs that I discovered this band. I don't know how I discovered them on a Spotify playlist or something kind of randomly, as far as I know. And I just kind of listened to that second album, and it was blowing me away. I liked it a lot. Yeah. Just their vibes and everything. Yeah. That was my discovery. They're on Jaguar. Yeah. Record label.
Which we mentioned before, and I was like, what artist was on that label that we mentioned?
Right.
And I know Unknown Mortal Orchestra had a track out an album on them.
I was trying to remember that as well.
Yeah, that was who we did. And then I think they had some other people that we haven't done episodes on. Dinosaur Jr. was like another artist that I've heard of, but not really heard the music of.
Yeah, they've come up, and I've seen that name a lot. Yeah. I think they have a pretty big following. Yeah. Kind of a cult following, I think.
Yeah. Bon Iver is on there as well. I know them.
Bon Iver.
Bon Iver. Oh yeah, it's one of those bands. Like we gotta get the pronunciation correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, good overview. Shall we spin a track?
Yeah, I was just gonna say they have like 4 albums out.
Yeah.
LPs, and they've all been on the same Jaguar. And that was the last thing I want to say for my overview.
Yeah.
But cool band, and then we have I think Jay's gonna introduce a song for us to play, get another vibe check.
Yeah. So this was earlier than the original track we played. This is off of their first full-length studio album, as they call it, Teenage Alien Blues. A snippet of Teenage Alien Blues from Foxygen, their album Take the Kids Off Broadway, not off Broadway. I interrupted that because that is a 10-minute long jam track that. But as you can hear, it's crazy, right? It's like so retro sounding.
Yeah.
Sounds like it came straight out of
the 70s.
Or like a Rolling Stones jam session or something like that.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be a Rolling Stones B-side that never got released or something.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously some influence.
Yeah.
With Mick Jagger or
Yeah.
Lou Reed vocal styling, some Velvet Underground a little bit.
Yeah.
Those vocals very buried in the mix.
Yeah.
The switch ups of the style.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, all their stuff is it's pretty engaging and interesting to listen to throughout each track.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And also, dope. We'll talk about it in a little bit maybe, but I just want to say that was recorded just with those two guys in their apartment in Queens.
Wow. Okay, cool.
And we'll talk about how they ended up there later. Foreshadowing.
Cool. Yeah. Where are we at? So let's kind of dig back into where these guys come from.
Early years.
Where we got? I know they met in high school.
Yeah.
So I don't have any background information before that, to be honest.
Yeah, no childhood info about their household and that. Just they talk a lot about their school time. They said that they formed the band in 9th grade, I think, or sort of came together.
Yeah, it was when they were about 14 years old.
Yeah.
So this was like 2003.
Yeah, they said they knew each other before then. They didn't go into detail, but
I think
yeah.
Well, as far as I know, they basically they were in a band together.
Right, at school, yeah.
And they didn't particularly know each other.
Okay. Yeah.
But then they started making a side project together.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where they started making music, and that's where their friendship began and their band began, basically.
Yeah, they said that they started just he said they made these recordings where they were jamming, and they said it sounded like the Doors. And then this is Rado that said this, and Sam France, the other guy in the band, he said he took those jam recordings home and put overdubs on it. And then Rado was like, wow, that blew him away kind of thing. And that was kind of, once they did that, they were like, that's where Foxygen came from kind of thing. Like
Foxygen Genesis.
The Genesis, yeah.
Nice. Basically that's their story. And then they never stopped making music after that. And we'll touch on that because they may or may not be in a hiatus
right
as a band right now.
But
don't know. Interesting.
They did a lot of stuff though when they were still at school. They said they recorded like at least 6 or 7 EPs, some full-length albums. They said one of the albums they did ended up being like 2 hours long or something. Like this is like early shit that I'm not sure if they might have it on a Bandcamp somewhere. I didn't check that, but
I bet you could find it somewhere. Maybe we should have gone into a little deeper research mode.
Yeah, this is like their pre-catalog basically.
But I mean, this is kids in high school.
Yeah. Teenagers and that. Yeah. And yeah, just like lots of really interesting techniques of way they were making music as well. This was like early computer days, so I mean, I guess we're like early 2000s, right? I mean, stuff like Logic did exist and all that, and Pro Tools, but I think that was back when Pro Tools was like 30 grand or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it was top of the line, industry standard.
Yeah,
not easy to get.
So they were doing like a lot of like 4-track stuff again, 4-track club, and some very rudimentary computer stuff. I think Rado said that I'm calling him Rado, just calling him by his last name.
That sounds good to me.
It's a good last name, by the way. He said that there was this like animation software that he had on his computer, and it was basically it had an audio and an input into it, and I think the use case for that is so you could record voiceovers for animations and sync them up to the animations on this really basic software. But he said it was the only software he had that could record audio. So like he was using that to like record into the computer. Yeah.
That's a very cool story.
Yeah. And
very DIY.
Very DIY. And then from there they've like experimented other ways, like recording on 4 tracks and then recording into the computer. But again, like early software, like there was this one software he mentioned called SoundForge, I think.
Yeah.
Which I used back in the day, and it was basically just like a waveform editor. I don't know if anyone's ever used like Audacity or anything like that.
Yeah, I've used Audacity.
Yeah, so it's basically like, it's just like one waveform and you're constantly like bouncing over the top of it. Like you'll record something in, and if it's like not quite at the right level, you have to undo it and then sort of tweak your level and then rebounce it again and basically keep pasting on top of it until you're finished.
Just layer by layer.
Yeah, which is crazy. And I think that's... Rado said they mostly made that album that way, Take the Kids Off Broadway. And even before that, they had one crazy album titled The Jurassic Explosion Philippic. I don't know how I pronounce that album.
Wow.
Yeah, but
And before we go too much
yeah.
into the future, I just wanted to notice that, or say that I believe they were about 14 years old or whatever. They were in high school and they were in this band, and they won a battle of the bands.
Yeah, they did actually. Yeah.
It was Agora High School.
Okay. Yeah.
Battle of Bands.
Right.
So I mean, that's all I got on that. But I just wanted to touch on that because obviously, based on what you were saying, they were doing a lot of good work.
Yeah.
Exploring and just trying new things and getting into music and seeing what it's all about at a pretty early age.
Yeah, and interestingly, just spending a lot of time focused on the recording side of things. Like, the fact that they strung together all these EPs and sort of albums whilst they were still in school, versus, traditional get the band together, rehearse a bunch of songs and play shows and maybe barely record anything kind of thing. I think I've kind of heard them say that at times they haven't really considered themselves a band because it's more of a duo and more recording based kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think essentially they've been exploring that from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like let's make music. This seems interesting, but they've always been asking like, what are we?
Yeah.
Is this just a fun side project, or are we trying to like really make it and be like a crossover band that makes it mainstream?
Yeah.
Because and we haven't really said that they haven't really made it to that level of mainstream like success as a band.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of success and played a lot of shows and a lot of acclaim, 100%. But people don't know this band as like a big name like any of these other Arcade Fire or The Strokes or whatever.
Yeah, I haven't heard of them at all. Well, I don't think. And usually, if I haven't heard of a band, I've like maybe heard a couple of tracks or something. That's been out in a coffee shop somewhere. But I don't really recognize any of that either. But they've been around for such a long time, though. Yeah, but like you say, they haven't. And we'll talk about that a little bit later as well, because I think this kind of touches on where they're at now and what they're going to do next, sort of thing. But
100%. So let's talk music. So I do know this was about 2003, I guess, too, same time period. And they bonded over a movie. So another good movie for a movie night list that I don't think we were actually writing it down, but I hope you guys are paying attention.
We'll have to go back and listen to every episode and write it down.
Yeah, we are. But there's a rockumentary called Dig. I think it's Dig, D-I-G with an exclamation mark. And they shared inspiration. It's about a 2003 documentary, American documentary about the collision of art and commerce through the eyes of the Dandy Warhols, which is a band.
Yeah, heard of them.
Yeah, they have at least one or two cool tracks that I like.
Yeah.
But I never really followed them.
Yeah.
But I heard like years ago, like when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it's about the Dandy Warhols and the Brian Jonestown massacre, like with the Kool-Aid.
Right.
And there was some kind of story there,
Okay.
which is what this rockumentary is about. And it's focusing on the developing careers and the love-hate relationship of the band's respective frontman, Courtney Taylor and Anton Newcomb.
There you go.
So it actually sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Whether you're more in it for music or, just pop culture about the massacre and stuff.
Yeah.
So it sounds interesting. I got it on my list to watch this week.
Yeah, definitely.
But just a little thing. They watched that. They bonded over it. They're really sharing their musical inspirations, and they're developing a friendship over this, and beyond that, a band.
Yeah. They always said they kind of shared a lot. Similar interests and aesthetics and stuff like that. I know, like Rado, I think, like went to school dressed up as a cowboy. Like sometimes he said,
I read that.
Kind of didn't really give a fuck. Like he said, he'd always carry around a harmonica and sometimes an acoustic guitar, and then Sam would like rap over it, like Beck style or something like that.
Right, like he's playing like a country jam.
Yeah.
But then he's rapping like Beck.
Yeah.
So from the very beginning, and I remember they did say they were unashamed about these stories.
Yeah.
Like they've always been like, wear my heart on my sleeve. Like I'm just gonna try to be myself, do whatever I feel like, even if it's weird, especially if it's weird.
Yeah.
And so for that, I really like them both for taking that on.
Which is cool, yeah, because if you think like, probably back then, but even now as well, like the bullying factor at school kind of thing. You know, if you do
Yeah.
stuff like that, you're gonna get picked on or whatever. But didn't seem like they had too much trouble with that. Not that they've talked about, but
I bet they were bullies, but I bet they just didn't really care or pay attention to it.
Yeah,
because they're just kind of wrapped up in the art of it.
That's something I thought. Yeah, I had this conversation the other day with someone. Was like, that's another like way why music can save you. Because I think like if you're in school and you're a bit of an oddball and you're doing these things, but with these guys especially, they were just like so immersed in making music the whole time that I think that's really healthy to have that other focus or passion whilst you're at school, because I think it can save you from like, you know, any type of bullying or people might be trying to sort of,
it's some sort of safe haven.
Yeah.
Like if you're not focused on anything else, then the bullying is the only thing you're focused on, and that's not healthy.
But if they're saying something at you and you're like, well, I don't care, we just made this fucking great track last night and we're like into that, you know, that's a different thing.
I don't care what you think.
But
so, and then I don't know, where do we go from here? Oh, they did go to college.
They did, yeah. They separately, yeah.
Yeah, they separated. John Rado went to school. I don't know where he went to school. Do you know that?
He went to New York,
for
School of Visual Arts, and he was studying screenwriting.
Yes. Okay, cool. Astute fact.
Yeah.
Research there. And then Sam France went to Evergreen in our home state here, not too far.
Yeah. Olympia, right? Is it in Olympia or near Olympia?
Good question.
Yeah.
Let us know.
I think he said in Olympia, but I don't know.
Let's say around the greater Olympia area. Olympia being the capital of Washington State.
Yeah. And so they were like studying separately, still stayed in touch. I know at this time, Rado had a small apartment in Queens. He said it was like the size of a closet. And he said he was going crazy, like
I bet,
in that tiny space. He went out and got like some tape machines and some like Casio keyboards. And then eventually, I'm not sure if Sam just visited or whether he dropped out. And I think he just dropped out of Evergreen Olympia and went to go live with Rado in Queens.
Yeah. So they were on opposite coasts.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I don't know if Sam was joking. I saw an interview where he was talking about what he learned or what he was studying. And he said birds, like Native American
ornithology or something like that.
Yeah. Just like a cornucopia of different disparate subjects. And I don't know if it was true or not.
I feel like it was, a little bit of truth surrounded by bullshit.
A little bit of exaggerated bullshit. Yeah. We'll go with that.
Just the way he was saying it. He was just kind of, I don't know. Yeah.
No, it looked like they were having a good time in that interview.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
they're in the Queen's apartment, and it was there that they wrote this and recorded the material for Take the Kids Off Broadway.
So that's what took place. That album eventually came out in 2012.
Yeah. I think they originally first self-released it, they said, on a label that they came up with themselves called Breakfast Horse. It's the only stuff that label was ever released. It's their own label, or just a name. I don't know if it was ever a label. But
yeah, it was never... Okay, it was a label specifically for that release.
Yeah.
And nothing else.
So they did their own artwork for that, and then when it was this recording that got them signed to Jaguar, and that label didn't like their artwork, so they changed it, but they put their original artwork on the back of it. Back in the CD days, I guess, or something like that. I don't know if they might have done a vinyl as well. Because now there's no cover, you know.
Can we put these pictures on the screen, Jay?
I'll find them. I'll put them up now. This is the original cover right there.
Nice. I've
and
seen
then
that.
Side by side now, I'll put up the one that came out on Jaguar.
That's the one I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen either of these yet.
Now I have those. So
our YouTube viewers are seeing them.
I'm watching this with you guys, okay? So cool. Yeah, so there's a lot of time because they were like 14 in 2003.
Yeah.
Fast forward what we just talked about, in 2012, their first LP comes out on their own label.
Yeah.
And this is the one that's very lo-fi. It's very ambitious, sporadic, harkens back to the 70s kind of vibes.
Yeah.
and pretty schizophrenic in general. So, but a good, kind of thing that put him on the scene, at least the underground scene, in their musical circles.
Yeah.
And was more or less a success.
Yeah, and I think it was somewhere along the line they came in contact with this guy, Richard Swift, who I think he used to be in the band The Shins. And it seems like he sadly passed away in 2018, actually, in Tacoma. He passed away. He was from California originally. He was like really well known within this sort of like, I guess, the indie rock music scene sort of thing. Heavily linked up with that label, Jagged Jaguar. And these guys from Foxygen knew him and had him as an inspiration. They got this album to him somehow, and he was like really into it and got them signed up with Jagged Jaguar basically.
And then probably re-released it under that label?
Yeah, re-released it under that label. And then after that, that's kind of what led to their second album, which Richard Swift produced 2013.
So that's where they really start cooking, I think.
Yeah, and so they said they got given $5,000 to make the album, and they made it in 9 days. They like wrote and recorded a song a day, they said.
Wow.
And the album is We Are the 21st Century Ambassadors of Peace and Magic.
Yes, 2013.
Yeah.
That one reached up to 76 on the Billboard 200.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just go over my notes on this one. Spontaneous as far as the influences go. Like probably most of their albums, you could say that.
Mm-hmm.
But the focus and cohesion is next level on this.
Mm-hmm.
Like from their first album to this 21st Century album, they've risen above. It's nicely written. The songwriting is good.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of kind of smoky saloon folk rock flavor.
Yeah.
60s vibe, vintage, but it's still kind of lo-fi and vintage a little bit, but it's clearer, more high fidelity lo-fi, if that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Good songwriting, production is great, better than the last album, but it's still modern and fresh.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what the first album that I discovered Foxygen on, and this is what kind of turned me on to them. They got the song San Francisco that I think that's one of their big songs as far as fans. I think they really like to see him play that. It's kind of one of the bigger songs in their discography. And then also Shuggy. Actually, right now I think we should play Shuggy.
Yeah.
So this is a really good track off of 21st Century Ambassadors of Peace and Magic 2013.
Off the floor and drinking tea, but she don't love me, that's news to me. I met your daughter the other day, well that was weird. She had rhinoceros-shaped earrings in her ears, but hey man, have a soda, it's on the house. Remember what I told you about the rooms inside this house, but you don't love me, that's news to me. That's news to me. That's news to I could give, and I could be in love. If you believe in yourself, that's news to me. That's news to me. That's news to I, the king, and I.
I'm gonna call that track Shuggy because I think they might be doing a nod to Shuggy Otis, who was like this soul singer who is probably his most famous track is Strawberry Letter 23 or something like that. But there's that moment in that track there where they kind of went dun 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 and did like a little bit of a
synth thing.
Yeah, funky thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was
nice, cool little fact there. Because I don't know where that came from, but I know that I like that song. The switch ups there, it's really intriguing.
Yeah.
And it just feels really fun and really, kind of some of these parts of the songs, it feels like kind of, I don't know what the word you say, like whimsical.
Yeah.
But then some of it sounds kind of badass.
Yeah.
Like it's like, okay, we're rocking.
Right.
And so I like how they're going through and, shifting these energies. And it's really fun.
Definitely, yeah.
So really cool track.
Yeah.
That'd probably be my recommendation is start listening to 21st Century Ambassadors.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Yeah. Sure. Solid album.
Cool. I love how you have that Shuggy. Did you say Shuggy or Shuggy?
I say Shuggy. Shuggy Otis.
Because Shuggy is a guy.
Yeah.
Okay,
guy.
cool.
But
I did not know.
But
this.
I could be completely wrong. But I
bet you're right.
I feel that because of that switch up as well.
Trust your gut. Trust your gut. I bet it's on point. Yes, I'm just moving along in the narrative of Foxygen.
One thing before we get too far away timeline wise.
Time out.
Yeah, that I wanted to say. And this relates to the first album. Get the Kids Off Broadway.
Oh,
take the Kids Off Broadway. So basically, Rado managed to get a job for Gibson Guitars when he was working in New York. He did end up dropping out of college as well because, well, skipping around timeline-wise, he basically left college because they got the record deal with Jagger Jaguar, and off the basis of this first album, and he he said he didn't really see a career for himself as a screenwriter anyway. Like if he graduated, so he was like, well, I have a record deal now. That seems like a better thing. And he wanted to be a record producer as well. But yeah, whilst he was in Queens and at college, he got this job for Gibson Guitars. And he was like crazy. Like he said, most of the time the showroom, they set up a showroom and it was to basically supply guitars to like artists that were performing on the late night shows.
Oh, nice.
So he'd be like the ones to like go to like David Letterman or Colbert Report and like deliver a guitar for like whoever was performing kind of thing.
That's
whoever
cool.
was sponsored by Gibson. And like the interviewer was like, oh, you must have met some cool people. And it's like, I didn't really hang out. It was like, he saw Lady Gaga once performing there because he was delivering a guitar to the band.
Mostly just a work though, another job.
Yeah.
It sounds like a cool job though, nonetheless.
Well, so the other cool thing about this is they said that the Gibson showroom was set up in this building that used to be the Hit Factory. It used to be called the Hit Factory. It was the recording studio in New York. I had to like look up to just frame of reference like what albums were recorded there. Like it's everything from like Graceland by Paul Simon to Survivor by Destiny's Child. Madonna's recorded there, like Santana.
So some huge mega artists.
The Back to the Future soundtrack, like all these kind of crazy shit that's done there. But he said like the rest of the building had been gutted out and renovated except for the basement, which is what Gibson used as their showroom. And he said all of the equipment had been taken out, but all the live rooms had been like left intact. And so he said he basically recorded all the drums for Take the Kids Off Broadway in these spaces that used to be the old Hit Factory studio.
What a cool story.
But he had a kind of shitty setup though. He just basically went into GarageBand with a USB, one SM57 and a USB mixer. So he had this like old Hit Factory studio, but like one microphone to record
like in
all
this
the
place
drums.
with history.
Exactly,
and
yeah.
Probably the best equipment, some of the best instruments.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm gonna use this room with my garage band and my little portable microphone or whatever and make some stuff.
Yeah. So
I love that. I mean, so these guys are just like DIY, like, who cares? I'm gonna make music. I don't care where I'm at.
Yeah, and that was the other thing like about recording wise, when they came to work with Richard Swift for this their second album, he said they originally wanted to do it on tape, but Richard was like, that's going to take way longer.
Well, I was going to bring that up a little bit later about like their production style or how they make music and stuff. But I thought I was understanding that they do everything on tape.
So it's kind of been mixed matched, yeah. And the only reason I bring this is up because he recorded, in the old Hit Factory with one mic.
Right.
And he said that's kind of what he liked about Richard's approach as well, because he likes to record drums with just one microphone as well. The difference being though that they sort of really learned about like making sure like the instruments in the room sound good, like, and not really rely on the equipment, So he said like Richard had like a drum kit set up that just sounded perfect just to your ears when you're in the room. So it's like then you don't need anything else. You just need a microphone
to pick that up.
Yeah, and done. And and then the tape thing, Richard said to record it all on Pro Tools because it would be quicker. But still trying to achieve that aesthetic of it makes it sound like it's on tape kind of thing.
Right.
So I was just kind of, we can talk maybe more about the rest of the grander scheme of recording or whatever, but I just thought it's kind of a little bit of an evolution there from between those two albums and how they recorded them and stuff like
right.
that. Right.
No, I love it. That's valuable.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So as far as I know, they come out with that album. They're rock and rolling. More critical acclaim. They got on the Billboard charts. Everything's looking good. Their friendship is blossoming. So they start doing live shows, and they start touring nonstop internationally because they got signed on Jaguar.
Jaguar. Yeah.
I'm gonna say
Jaguar.
But yeah, so France was developing a reputation for antagonistic or sometimes violent stage antics. So they're just kind of wild. I did forget to mention I have seen this band live.
Oh yeah? Okay.
So because I discovered them several years ago now, like probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe even 5. But then I saw a band I brought up to you that you said you never heard, Young the Giant.
Right.
And they were playing at Marymore Park in Redmond.
Yeah.
And Foxygen was opening up for them.
Okay.
So Young the Giant's great.
Yeah.
And I was going to see them. And I did know Foxygen, but it was like a little surprise. I didn't realize they were playing in front of Young the Giant. So I got to see like half their show. It was pretty good.
Cool.
It was pretty fun. They usually have a lot of people on stage, at least at this one, because they have some, like horn players, percussion, the duo. They got a lot going on.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to throw that out there that I have seen these guys and it was good stuff.
Yeah.
Cool, energetic show.
I've heard Sam has broken his wrist twice and his leg once on stage.
Yeah.
Like from all of this stuff.
Yeah, so that paints the picture. Like they're breaking bones on stage.
Yeah.
I think, and furthermore, I think, I was reading an interview and they've said they've like lived every cliche of the rock and roll lifestyle.
Right.
With, from like whatever girls to doing, drugs to having to go off stage and cancel the show because, it's not going well or whatever to, last minute cancellations of tour.
Right.
So they're kind of just like in the midst of all of this while they're, really making cool art. So they're putting in their time, they're really doing it.
Yeah.
They're the full experience of the rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah.
What? Then Star Power 2014. That's where I'm at.
And Star Power. It's like ... and Star Power.
Right. And technically you call that an ellipse? Those dots?
Yes, if you're an English major.
Which I am not. Ellipse and Star Power.
Okay, right.
And so I think they have like several tracks on this album that have the phrase Star Power in the track name.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's some kind of... Do you know anything about like the lore or the theme of why they called it Star Power? I don't know. I didn't find where that came from.
No, but so there's like a few narratives going around here that Sam has talked about. Like, because you mentioned about like living every cliche rock star thing. And I'm not sure if it started on this album or it was like more on the most recent album, but they also had all these like troubles with the music industry. Just like sketchy people or like false promises, outright lies, or people just telling them they're going to be the next big thing, like within the industry and all that sort of shit. I don't know. It seems like maybe it might be a nod to one of those things, and star power. I don't see. I'm just like, what's the word? Speculating.
Yeah, but that's, what do they call it when you? I mean, an educated guess, but it's educated speculation.
Yeah.
Based on evidence.
Yeah.
Evidence-based speculation.
Yeah, because they sort of talked about it all, and you mentioned earlier as well about being a crossover band kind of thing, and I think that was something that Foxygen came up with. It was an industry term from the label people, seeing that these guys were like really talented but doing some really underground, obscure shit, like really unfriendly radio type songs, just in terms in terms of the quality as well, not just the song structure, but like. And so, like, I think they always, like, the label people thought, they had the potential to, like, be more of a crossover, get some mainstream success, and then once you've got that, you can do your experimental shit, and kind of like Radiohead, right? Like super massive, but they can still get away with doing a electronic album.
Yeah, and you'll be hard pressed to hear some, 99% of Radiohead tracks on the radio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so I don't know. That's just like a theme that it seems to have cropped up in the last few years with them, and I don't know if it started on this album or not.
But even furthermore, and I think on Star Power they have, I don't know, side story. They have the last song on and Star Power is called "Hang."
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is the title of their next album.
Right.
So I don't know if there's a connection there.
I do know. Follow the Leader is the first track on Hang. And they wrote that track at the end of recording and Star Power. And they thought it would be on the same album.
Oh.
But they were like, this is actually pretty different. Like, I think we're going to play it. We're coming up to it, actually. It's in the list.
It's happening before we...
Natural progression here. Segue.
That's good. We're getting good at this, Jay.
Rado said that, they wrote this track and then they were like, well, this is actually maybe more like a new direction for the next album kind of thing. And because he wanted to like produce it like in a big, clean, crisp, like 70s production style kind of thing versus like the really raw DIY stuff, lo-fi stuff they've been doing kind of thing. So I guess we'll just play it with that in mind.
Let's get which one are we playing?
Follow the Leader off of Hang. Oh, no, actually, I'm way too ahead.
Oh, that's what I was...
We did have a track from And Star Power. Damn it, man. Fuck.
No, it's all good.
My natural segue is...
Well, I led you there. I led you astray because I brought up that last song.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about... Let's back up a second. Where were we? I think they've just kind of been experiencing this Star Power idea and, whether or not they're... coming to fruition with their musical career. Like, are we going to be mainstream, like rock stars, and like we made it, and we can make a living off of this consistently, or are we going to be always kind of in this underground indie stage, where we're like, we almost got success, we're on the Billboard charts, not too high, but and he's I've seen him talking about in interviews, like they have like a mediocre of fame, but they're not really famous in any way.
Yeah.
So there's, I feel like these themes are kind of running through their heads, and they're kind of questioning themselves as they're growing up and moving through their career. Yeah,
like evaluating, what their place in all of this.
Yeah.
And also being able to be on tour and see how other groups are. I know like Sam is like, he didn't name any names, but he said, there's a lot of people out there that have this like image, and then you meet them in real life and you realize it's all fake. Like it's just an image for like marketing or whatever. These people aren't actually that way, that they're the way they're portraying kind of thing.
Right.
And I think they kind of fuck with their heads a little bit as well.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what is this? This all seems a little sketchy. Like,
it is. At the same time, I feel like they're playing into it a little bit because they dress up and they have this like aesthetic. You've seen the interviews, like they just have their shaggy hair and they have like leather jackets or like a silly hat and sunglasses. Like they have a look, they have an aesthetic that kind of harkens back to some older like 70s type vibes.
Yeah.
That goes along with their music. But I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know exactly what's going on in their head, but based on what I read, it sounds like they're wondering and figuring out their place in the world just like everybody else is.
Yeah, it's like probably like partly figuring themselves out whilst also the label and the marketing people are like having a say as well. And it's like, you know, I don't know.
Looking back on it, it's a very artistic venture in general. Just, you know, they're like, are we a band?
Right.
You know, are we artists?
Yeah.
You know, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Are we making a living from this? And I don't know, everyone questions these existential questions. Like, am I an artist? Am I doing this for money? Is this a product?
Right.
What's artistic about this? Should I even be here?
Yeah, that's the like thing. Yeah, I think off camera I've been like sort of maybe saying a few things to you about these kind of notions as well that I've been thinking about, and it's like I know for sure that for me, I need to do music because it's like what I do, right? It's just like part of who I
feel
am.
that. Yeah.
I have to play, but then it's just like, you know, yeah, I do have an ambition to do more with that. But then I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? You know, do I want, you know, you don't want fame, you don't want money. It's like, it gets very complicated when maybe it isn't.
Right.
Maybe this is like, you know, first world problems or as they say or whatever, but like, you know.
I mean, no, but I think you're talking about just humans think too much
Well, yeah.
instead of just doing.
You should just do it, get on with it. And that's, I think, what these guys do. Foxygen, a lot of the time, they just sort of put their heads down and just like, you can hear it in the music, you know. They're not really,
Right.
It seems very organically structured though. It seems very like, I don't know, specific, but like indulgent in their own way. Like they're indulging in these things without overthinking it. It's
Yeah,
just
like they choose to engage with something and then see it through.
Yeah.
And then they look at it objectively and reflect on it and learn from it, their own experience.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're, you know, I don't know, they're being their own therapists in a way. They're you know, they're using their life as a vessel of like question and like learning.
Right.
You know, like what, you know, live. I mean, everyone should do that. It's like being mindful. Like, how am I? What kind of personal agency do I have? Like, I'm the one affecting everything around me, and how are my choices going out and then reflecting back onto me?
Yeah.
It's kind of heady and, you know, spiritual or esoteric.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is a lot of the kind of mindset these guys have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that they're thinking about a lot. By you can just tell by the production of their music, and obviously by their interviews and the things that they say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all this stuff kind of leads me to why I think they're cool.
Right.
Their music's good, and then I think their brains are cool too, and they're just, I think they're decent kids. You know, I don't know them I don't know them personally, but I think they're decent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as far as their aesthetic and their music goes, very cool.
Well, let's play a track off and Star Power, right? How Can You Really? This track. Foxygen. How can you really? I saw a crazy live version of that they did on David Letterman back in the day. That seems so long ago now that David Letterman was on TV, but
Did he have a show at some point?
yeah,
He had-
the Late Show, Late Show. And it was some people in the comments on YouTube I saw said they were liked the live version more than the recorded version.
I think they do that well. I think
Yeah,
Foxygen they like those live takes.
yeah,
Like, being in the studio, I do remember I heard him talking, about like when they're in Pro Tools or something, you can see your music
yeah.
and you can see when something's not on the beat.
Which I don't like.
Right.
Yeah.
And they kind of like that, leave it up to, just our reality, our perception.
Yeah.
If we think we got close, then it's probably close enough. And if it sounds good, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm totally on board with that. That's the problem I've always had with computer music is when it first came out, I was like, okay, this is great, it's easy, but I didn't like the process because it just was all very visual, and now click tracks were a thing, and now everything has to be on the grid. It's like, but a few months ago we weren't talking about this. Why has the paradigm shifted?
Yeah.
To now we have to record in this way. Where I'm like, it's not about the sound anymore, which is the issue for me. So I totally agree with them. Like I've heard Foxygen say that, they like to record to tape and they just like to have a live band in the room. Yeah, and like you say, run the track from beginning to end, and then do overdubs.
Right.
Which is the traditional way of how it was always done before computers.
Right. So they're inspired by that and they just want to live that life.
Yeah, and I think I'm totally on board with that. And a lot of other artists doing it that way as well, like Jack White, I mention a lot.
Yeah.
Does it that way.
Yeah, he's doing it well.
We've even talked about Adrian Young on an episode as well. He's the other way. Like I think Foxygen do integrate computers here and there, whereas Adrian Young's like banishes them all from his studio,
I don't even think Adrian Young has a cell phone.
No, it doesn't. I don't think so. Have to call him on the telephone, the old school rotary thing.
I usually hit him up on like Morse code.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Adrian Young, contacting you.
Damn. Via TikTok.
Yeah, yeah. So now we're on Hang.
Yeah.
So that was and Star Power, good track.
Yeah.
I feel like their first those albums coming up into and Star Power were kind of their come up.
Yeah.
And they were experimenting as they went, doing this, trying that, and then they get to 2016. Hang comes out, and this is a little bit of a return to form, or a little bit of a step back towards what they were doing before, if anything. But it's still kind of a lot of the stuff we've heard piano. It's like piano rock, a little bit of glam rock in there, carnival music, old school musical theater. So it's still theatrical, but they're still hitting these different little, hyper focused sections where you can feel that where the influence is coming from.
Yeah.
But the production is good. It's mixed well. And I mean, yeah, overall very good. The vocals are kind of buried in the mix a little bit, harkening back to their old school style, like that first album. Overall very good though.
Yeah.
The album cover art is very cool. It's like I don't know. It's like paint. It's like a painting. It's different colors, and it's kind of abstract. But yeah, what do you think about this album?
Really good. Well, they also put orchestra over this album, right?
Oh, that's right.
Strings, which is really good.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't write down who the orchestra was, but they worked with them in tight conjunction.
So they're out of Richmond, Virginia. There's these two guys, Trey Pollard and Matthew E. White, worked on the orchestration. I think Trey was the conductor for the orchestra. Space Bomb Studios out of Richmond, Virginia, is those people. And the guys from Foxygen talk them up a lot, like, saying how they've got the Space Bomb Studios got their whole own thing happening in Richmond, Virginia, which is like where they recorded all the strings for this album, Hang. And the Lemon Twigs, I think, are a band that also feature on this album. Stephen Drozdy from the Flaming Lips is on this album as well.
He's the singer?
I think he's the drummer for
Flaming Lips.
Flaming Lips.
I think Flaming Lips were a pretty big
Drums, guitar,
style,
keyboard. Yeah.
And these guys were coming up during that time, that kind of indie rock.
Yeah, they mentioned that when they were like starting the band in high school, it was the time where like Flaming Lips was like that type of era. I don't know if LCD Sound System was that.
Yeah, I think that was same-ish mid 2000s.
Yeah.
You know, Strokes were big early 2000s.
Right.
This kind of indie rock thing coming up.
Yeah.
And
Arctic Monkeys. That's UK, but yeah.
Arcade Fire.
Okay, yeah.
No, but yeah, all these little points connecting the dots, and this is kind of
Modest Mouse. Mm-hmm. When people say Arcade Fire, I think of Modest Mouse as well. I don't know if they're really very similar at all, but I don't know.
I think.
Yeah.
I haven't delved into either of those bands fully.
Yeah.
Arcade Fire's on my list. It's high up on the list of bands to really dive into soon.
I remember around this time, me and my brother discovered this website, AOL Music Videos. Mm-hmm. I think it was before like YouTube had really taken off, and AOL had a whole website, and it was like this. It was kind of like MTV. It was like it would just play random music video after random music video, and back then that's how I discovered like Modest Mouse, Arcade Fire, Postal Service.
Oh,
it was kind of very well curated from AOL Music.
Sounds good, yeah.
It wasn't like mainstream pop. It was like kind of alternatives.
Where did AOL go wrong? They had so much going for them.
Like all of those people, right? Yahoo and all that.
They should be.
They're
huge.
still around, and which blows my mind, and still multi-million-dollar companies. But when was the last time you went to AOL.com? I don't know.
I don't know. Never. I don't know. 20 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, this album, like, all recorded to tape. Hang, we're talking about from Foxygen.
Yeah.
It was like interesting. They said when they recorded the orchestra, they had two separate tape reels, like one tape reel with the band on it, and the other tape reel with the orchestra, and they like synced the machines up so they would like play in time, kind of thing, you know. So that's like a whole art in itself.
No, totally, that's cool.
But, yeah.
And it ended up sounding very good. So it was a very good project.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else on this album. Do you?
No, let's play that track because it's.
But we do have a track to play from it. Yeah,
it's really the strings are like a really nice touch on all this. This is called "Follow the Leader," the first track from Hang.
Hey, baby, you know it's true. I'm in love with you, babe, but you never. No, you're never gonna be. Yeah, all the shotgun lovers on the avenue. Yes, it's true, he's much too old for you, babe, but you never. No, you're never gonna be. I know sometimes everyone wants to be someone else. So follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader, and the leader is you.
Yeah, that's a big track there.
That's a slapper.
I hear so many different things in it. I hear like Rolling Stones, I hear David Bowie, I hear Lou Reed, I hear Foxygen.
I mean, I hear like old school, like Jackson 5, you know, like
Jackson
Motown.
5, yeah. I hear Elton John a little bit, I hear as well. The piano in there.
I mean, yeah, but just bombastic energy,
Yeah,
you know, beautiful, just like flying synths,
Yeah.
or not synths, but strings.
Yeah, I saw actually Rado did a breakdown video. This is on YouTube where he kind of breaks down how this track was built up, kind of thing. It's kind of interesting.
Oh, nice. Who said that? Who made the video? Or band members were in it?
Yeah, just Rado. I'm sorry, I keep calling him Rado.
That's his name, Rado.
His name. He sort of described it as like a sandwich because I guess it's like the Lemon Twigs. Is that the name of that band?
Oh, right.
Yeah. They're like doing like the he described them as like doing the bassist, the foundation, and then he's in the middle doing all of his like different sprinklings, and you got the orchestra on top, kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
And
that feels right.
yeah, and he said there's like a lot of keyboards happening in there. He's like, he did a one line, I think, which the track starts out with. It sounds like a Rhodes, but it was like a Wurlitzer, which is kind of like a Rhodes, and then he played a Rhodes on top of that, and then they got piano in there, and they got synths, and then he said there's like two different bass takes, kind of thing, from two different times, and he soloed it, and you could hear the cut. Like it was a really janky cut between the two bass lines. It sounded like a clip, like a.
Just not good.
But you can't hear it in the track at all. It's funny.
It's lost in there.
It's just lost in there.
I was gonna say the bass. Yeah. I did like the bass on that track.
Yeah.
Just really beautiful, and it goes really well and powerful with the strings.
Yeah.
And it integrates really well while having its own kind of presence and tone.
Yeah.
It's nice.
And it's amazing to me that, you know, so many layers of instruments in that, but it all comes together really well. Like, yeah.
It sounds very cohesive and powerful.
Yeah.
So, I mean, up until that point, kind of a high point for their band.
Yeah.
You know, like they're turning out very good, high quality music like that, working with, you know, string arrangements and composers and other artists in their circles.
Yeah.
So like firing on all cylinders. You know, they've been touring, coming out with like some of their best music they've ever come out with, and they keep going on.
Yeah.
Let's move on. That was Hang 2016.
Yeah.
Very good. And then their final album that they've released so far, right?
Seeing Other People. Yeah. Which they've said is their last album on Jaguar.
Yeah, it came out 2019.
Yeah. And also people have been like, are you guys breaking up? And they're like, no, but like they're just taking a break, you know. They have reached stage burnout, as we say, I feel like.
Right.
It seems like.
They're like they've been at this for years.
Yeah.
They've churned out a lot of good music.
Yeah.
They've built a lot of relationships and built a community and a fan base.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was reading one of the interviews said they're not broken up as a band, but they're also not together as a band right now.
Yeah.
You know, like he described their relationship, the two of them, Sam and Jonathan, as kind of like family.
Right.
Like I don't feel like seeing them right now, but eventually we're going to get together because we have to, because of that relationship. Like there's a magnet that's drawing them together.
Yeah.
And it's just based on like a lot of a musical relationship, a friendship and a musical relationship. Cause I was reading, he was describing how like Sam knows what Jonathan's referencing when he says, "Oh, I want to sound like this or like that," or, you know, trying to go for a vibe. And he's describing how if he was working with another musician, they could achieve something awesome, but it would take 3 or 4 hours when if John and Sam were in the room, he can get something done in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Just from that relationship and that experience level with each other.
They just call that language. They know what the other's kind of trying to achieve or whatever. Like,
And so just like everybody else, I feel like they don't really know what they're doing. Like they can't put a label on it. Like, we're broken up, we're on hiatus. Like they're just kind of experiencing themselves as we all are going through our own lives. And they're figuring it out as they go. And I feel like they don't know right now.
And I think all of like this business side of music and the touring and the fame and all that is kind of come to a head in this album as well. I've also heard Sam say about how he's kind of talking about that a lot in the lyrics as well, which he said some people don't appreciate because like a lot of people everyone goes through that in the music industry, but no one talks about it.
Yeah.
He's talking about it.
Is that like a no-no? People don't want to hear you talk about that?
You know, it depends, right? Because I used to really like Kings of Leon, like first album. And then there was a few years ago where I like heard some of their stuff, and it was like, it just seemed like he was talking about being bored on tour, like in the lyrics in this Kings of Leon song. And I was like, oh man, you guys are on the road so much, you have nothing else to sing about now.
Right, right.
Like, you know, so I feel from that perspective, it's not so great if you're in a bubble and that's all, you've got no like life things to talk about. But I feel like for the way the Foxygen's doing it or Sam's doing it makes sense to me, you know, because they've had a lot of struggle within this. And I think he also said at some point, like he's finally figuring out how to do it, how to navigate this industry. But they need a break. Like I know he is doing like solo stuff. I think he has a solo album coming out. He's dropped a few tracks. He's writing a memoir,
I think
book, about his whole experience. No Holes Barred, he said. Said he was influenced by reading the Miles Davis thing, and Miles Davis apparently just spewed everything in his book and didn't leave any stone unturned. And
oh wow!
So Sam's decided to do that as well in his book. He said it's kind of cringe making and that, but he's like fuck it. He also said he doesn't care what the fuck people think about him anymore. So.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I think they've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
You know, like I think they're figuring out where they want to go in the future. Yeah. Looking back, reflecting on where they've been. Yeah. And, you know, they're on a ride, pretty wild ride. Yeah. It's going pretty good, I think. It's very interesting. Yeah. But yeah, we're talking about Seeing Other People is the title.
Right. Yeah.
And this came out in 2019. Yeah. And so, I mean, just based on the title alone, you can kind of tell, it seems like just based off that title, speculation, but also based off their interviews and stuff, like they're looking elsewhere. Yeah. They're like, what are we doing? Is this, am I on the right path? Right. As individuals, Jonathan and Sam. Yeah. You know, should we keep doing this? Should we keep doing it in a different way? Do we try something new? I do have a quote. I can't remember which one of them said that. I didn't write it down. I'm sorry. It's never just about failure. It's about not being famous and not ever reaching those crossover goals that you were told you're going to reach when you are one of those young new bands. So just kind of commenting on that, because I think, like you said, hearkening back, they were being told like this and that, like you're going to be the next band, you're the hot new band this year, blah blah blah, and then like, does it come to fruition? Do they does that manifest in a real way for their career?
Yeah.
Also, this album is one of the least theatric, I would say. I feel like it's broken down a little bit, stripped of some of the bombastic energy and kind of a little bit more subdued than the other albums. Maybe it's due to their upcoming adulthood.
Right.
I'm not sure, but it's still high quality and it's still, intriguing, I think.
Yeah.
But this is their newest album. I'm probably least familiar with this one, all things said.
Yeah, me too as well. I did a deep dive into their back catalogue and didn't get round to this one. But I read a lot about it. Yeah, I think we read the same interview that was done. I think they wrote an open letter or something, sort of describing their outlook. Instead of like a normal press release, they wrote what they called an open letter or something.
Yeah, like an op-ed.
Op-ed, yeah. And they said various things in that. But I was trying to find if I had any kind of smart quotes from that. One of the quotes from that open letter is, "With every album, the band dies, and with every album, the band is reborn." That was like a line.
Yeah. Nice.
And they sort of described this as their final reincarnation for now. Yeah. But I think it's all, yeah. Also, I think Sam has kind of had, even though they're not famous, he's sort of had some like sketchy shit happening with like fans trying to break into his house late at night, and he's had to have race training orders and stuff like that.
Yeah, I heard that as well. Or I read it, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think his reaction to that was like, well, is this maybe this is just normal for people that are kind of
famous people like me.
People. Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, again, just kind of he's, they're going through this experience.
Yeah.
Never having done it before.
Yeah.
And just kind of experiencing it as they go.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine, I've never been in these situations.
Yeah.
Even with their kind of low level of fame.
It's interesting to think about, right? There's like, if you're coming up as a musician or a band or whatever, and you're thinking about making it, whatever making it is, you have to define that for yourself, I think. But as I'm seeing with all these different bands and that, is there are many different levels of careers that these artists can have,
Yeah.
where you can sustain yourself, but you're not like well known to like the mass public at large. But then you have this like niche following that is very hardcore, so much that they will stalk you and you have to get restraining orders against them.
Yeah.
But that's happening, and then the greater world still has not heard of your band or who you are, or it's very strange, kind of like different levels of fame and success.
I'm sure they're asking themselves what was the point of, where was I trying to go?
Right. Yeah.
Did I want this cult following of weirdo stalker people?
Yeah.
And also at the same time not be really famous, like actually throughout the nation or the world. So was it worth it? I do have another quote, and it's almost kind of like, I hope it's not like bad vibes for their band or whatever, but Sam France said at some point in that interview, I think, "I'm solo now. I just want to like have a family and stuff,
Right.
So it does kind of seem like they're looking elsewhere.
Yeah.
To, at different types of relationships in the world.
Yeah.
And wondering if maybe they should try something else because music's not giving them that full fulfillment.
Yeah, I know Sam has a fiance, and apparently he spent a lot of time living down in Texas with her when she was going to school. But he's back in California now. Said he prefers California. The South doesn't really jive with him.
Yeah,
that's what he was saying. And all of his family and friends are up in California, kind of thing. But yeah, it's very much like he's given a long, like 1 hour podcast thing that's up on YouTube. I didn't watch all of it. I just started to watch a couple of things, and he's just basically saying he's been taking a couple of years out, not really, just living life, like you were saying. Yeah, and I think,
and fair enough, because they're going through the pandemic as well.
Yeah,
like their last album came out 2019.
Right.
So great time to get it out, but right before everything shut down.
Yeah.
And everyone was questioning their lives during that lockdown, I think.
Yeah. But I think out of the duo, it seems that Sam is like, his concerns are about the industry and about the fame component and all of that stuff. with Rado, I haven't heard him really talk about that stuff specifically. I'm sure they share the same sentiments when it comes to the industry.
Right.
I mean, they wouldn't have made this album otherwise, you know, called Seeing Other People and with the content of the lyrics and stuff like that. But I know, but Rado seems very much like very like interested in the process of recording and engineering and experimentation and like I feel like whether he continues in this band or produces for other people or does his own stuff, like he's going to continue doing that. I think you know, like whether you need to be in a band and tour to do that. I don't think you do because that's a studio thing, right? But yeah.
No, but maybe he's got a future as an engineer or producer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, here we are. That's all I got on these guys, basically.
Yeah.
Last album, Seeing Other People, came out in 2019, and they're kind of may or may not be on hiatus right now.
Yeah.
Not sure what they're doing. If you guys know, let us know. But I mean, this is about all.
Yeah.
I've given my up-to-date status on this band. We got anything else?
That's it. Gonna play out.
Well, then you guys let us know what they are doing. Sam, where you at? Rado, where you at? If you guys got any stories though about what they're up to, about their whereabouts, let us know. This was a fun one. This was a good one. I like Foxygen. Start with 21st Century Ambassadors if you want to listen.
Yeah.
But thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for listening. But please hit us up with that information. Jay's got the email right there.
Roots to Grooves at signalradio.com. That's SIGNL radio.com.
If it was a year ago, I probably wouldn't have to say it on the phone. Yeah, you know I really gotta pray for your soul. Take down all the pictures, Joe. Yeah, I'm trying to get on your vibe, but now your name dropping me all the time. You know I don't really care for it. Yeah, you know that I don't really care about it. How does it feel to be living a lie? One more time. How does it feel? Come to me at the show, and I see you taking off the clothes. I don't really even care anymore. But since you asked me, I don't care for flying in the air. I made it to the Hollywood Hills. There's only one thing that I ask of you. Tell me the truth when I ask how it feels. How does it feel to be living a lie? And you know you never cared about no one. Yeah. How does it feel to be living a lie? One more time. Now you're going all over the globe, and you're ripping up an act in my show, and I'm flying in the air. But since you asked me, I don't care for it. Come to me at the show, and you even stole my fucking clothes. Yeah, I don't care anymore. How does it feel to be living a lie? One more time. Yeah, you know you never cared about no. Yeah.
Roots to Grooves is a production of Signl Radio. For more music and independent culture, visit signalradio.com. That's signl radio.com.